Hi, this is Joe, NE2Z. We're going to talk about using Fldigi for digital modes, whether you're running the software on Windows or Linux, since the software is cross-platform to begin with. Every step of the way, I make a point of making a distinction of where Windows conventions apply versus Linux. Don't be scared. Like I said, if you're here just for Windows use, you'll be accommodated for. But we want to make sure we have show the power of Fldigi in its full splendor and glory, as it were. Let's get started. When it comes to digital modes, you will want to run a second audio device and not using the primary audio device of your laptop or any other computer. The reason being is as you're using your digital software, your computer is probably going to do system sounds and everything else that you don't want to be being transmitted on the air. So that's why you need to have a second audio device. So in the connection you'll see here is from your Windows machine. You'll have a USB connection to another USB audio device, and then you'll have a USB connection to the radio itself. That USB connection, that CAT cable, actually in that cable is a 232 device. So it's actually makes a USB to serial. So when you look at the Win 10 laptop, it will be some COM port that's actually connecting back to 817, wherever you have set up for that cable. And then for the USB audio, you see it as another audio device within Windows. And from there, you're going to see the microphone and the speaker connections. The microphone connection for the USB audio actually goes to the speaker connection on the back of the FT817. And then the speaker out from your Windows audio goes into the radio interface, which actually goes ahead and that interface converts it into the RJ45 cable that goes into the mic jack on the 817 itself. The actual transmitting, you could do a couple things. Number one, you could use the CAT cable. That connection, you can actually do your push to talk. Or for digital modes, a lot of people set up Vox on the radio. So it's once it hears the sound, it's actually going to go immediately into transmit mode. But best practice is actually to go with a formal push to talk type connection. No matter what software we would be talking about, this would be the minimum setup you would need to use a Raspberry Pi with a radio. So from the Raspberry Pi, we would actually have a USB audio, because on the Pi itself, it has audio out capability through HDMI and a 3.5 millimeter, but it doesn't have any audio in capability. Hence, we need an external USB audio device. Also, we'll need a serial connectivity for the radio, because serial connectivity is how most of the control software works. So we'd be using a C262 CAT cable that actually takes USB serial and connects directly to the back end of the radio. So those would be your two USB connectivity points. On the audio, USB audio, the microphone audio, what's coming in actually is the output of the speaker for the radio, for the Yaesu. And then the output of the USB audio goes into the Nomic radio interface, which actually brings that to an RJ45 connection that goes through the mic connection. Now, you could go ahead and run Vox, meaning voice-operated transmit talk capability. So this way, anytime the radio just hears any audio, it can go ahead and transmit. But the best practice is go ahead and use push-to-talk via serial, hence via the CAT cable. And by the way, the CAT cable is going to give you a whole bunch of other control capabilities depending on the software running on the Pi itself. So right now on the screen, you've installed the software, you're running it for the first time, launching it, and you get into the initial configuration wizard. And as I said, this wizard's the same whether it's going to be on Pi, Linux, Windows, even on the OS X flavors, but you have to go through this type of setup to start off with. Some information you should have beforehand. You actually should know something, the Maidenhead location you are. Typically it's like a FN 21 AM combination. It's based upon latitude and longitude, because that will be asked somewhere in the wizard in itself. So let's go ahead and get going. I'll go ahead and click Next. And you immediately be asked your operator information, so put in your station call sign. Put your call sign again as operator. Go ahead and put in your first name for operator name. For antenna, I'm going to just put G5RV. And my location QTH, Mountainville. As I mentioned, the Maidenhead locator, for me it's FN21XJ. This is useful if you use any of the DX cluster feature capabilities that Fldigi goes ahead and connects to. So this way, how is it going to know it's DX2 unless it knows your locator? Let me go ahead and what state we're in. And go ahead and set the county. Go ahead and click Next. And for whether it's Windows or, again, Linux, you're going to be selecting port audio. Since you probably have multiple audio devices, make sure you're selecting the correct one. So for me on a Pi or even Windows, I'm not going to go for the default. I'm going to go for the external audio interface I've connected into it. So it would be the C Media USB. I'll do that again for capture and playback. And if you notice there's something for audio for right channel, what you can do is you could set up Fldigi to go ahead and set a tone on one of the channels that would be for push to talk. Don't forget, you only need is mono. So you can have left channel being data, right channel be for when you want to send a tone to engage push to talk. And that actually could get interpreted elsewhere in the software to go ahead and send the transmit command. Or you might be using it for some other external piece of software. Again, there's many ways of trying to deal with push to talk configurations without complicating the hardware setup. Go ahead and click Next. And then Next. Here, how do we want to control the radio? FLRig comes with Fldigi. I have no experience that software telling you anything about it. So we'll go on and take a look at some of the other options, like go straight to hardware push to talk, where you might have it again using that right tone. If you here's that tone on the right audio channel, go ahead and use the wherever the serial port here is. So DevTTY is from Linux. You'll see that is selections COM1, COM2, COM3, COM4, or whatever number of COM numbers you have. But and you go ahead and set RTS accordingly as need be. But I'm going to use RigCat. So RigCat, I'm going to have to open up a configuration file, an XML file that I've previously downloaded from the Fldigi site. And I'll go ahead and my downloads. I actually stored it elsewhere on my Pi. Let's go ahead and click through. Yep. And there it is, FT817XML. I'm going to use that rig description file. I'm going to set the serial port accordingly, USB 0. I'm going to set the baud rate that that I've got configured on my 817, which is 38,400. You can use that as use RigCat, hit initialize, and you should have the connectivity initialized to the radio and click Next. Never really used this. I think it's for weather stations if you want to go ahead and click some information, but I typically just go ahead and click update anyhow. And if I see the numbers and everything change in no error, I got internet connectivity. So here we are at the main window. I'm going to expand it and we'll go through the details in the next session.